Ki he o tua mawhio kune a whio I ho tau lotolotonga. Whatapu ki he tamatu I King Tupo Ono. Queen Nanas Pau. Whatapu at ki he tamasi pirinis kalauni Tupo Toa Ukalala. Ka pehefo ki he whare o haa mohe ofo. Whatapu ki he pare mia Lord Whakawhanua pea moe hou e kabineti o ene a whio. Whakatapu atu ke kau no pere. Whakatapu atu ke kau takilotu. Ka pehefo ki he tonga kotoa o mau mea mai ki he tau Polokalama I he hoatani. Ka talangata e te au o whai ki tua mamao. Ka atamo au ke whakahoko atu a e Polokalama koin I he hoatani. O ko whakawhiloaki atu a Jesse Potter ko e taki leo leo ia I he ofisi embassy Amerika I Nuku Alofana. Pea o ku amanake mwhai a e whiwahe aki I he hoatani, whikau aki pea moe ngahi whainga maarie ko lawenga monuai ai ki I whanua ko Tonga. Kai tupe mua ke wafe ki he lea whakapiritania ke whakahoko ai Polokalama koe ni, pea moe whakahoko ai matu aki honga ia ki he Letio Vake Tali Folau, ko ngā koe tuku mai ai time koe ni, kai whai ai talatala noa pea mo Jesse Potter. Mr. Potter, it's a great honor for me on behalf of Radio Tonga Vake Tali Folau from San Francisco Bay Area, California, to welcome you and extend our sincere gratitude to the US government and to your good self for taking the time and be willing to join us to have friendly discussions about these exciting initiatives and things that are happening. As you know very well, we are very delighted to have welcomed Her Royal Highness Crown Princess Sinai Takala Tuku Aho here to the Bay Area with a delegation that have arrived because of this wonderful initiative that has been made by the US government and through the city of East Palo Alto to establish a city partnership between the good city of Kolofo'o and East Palo Alto. And I think on that note, things are very high note here in the Bay Area. We got off to an excellent start, and the mayor of East Palo Alto was kind enough with some of his officials to join in welcoming Her Royal Highness the Crown Princess at San Francisco International Airport yesterday. There was also a traditional welcome ceremony that was conducted at the official residence at Tauakipulu in Hillsborough, and everybody is now settled in and getting ready to start the official program, which will actually commence, I would like to say, tomorrow evening. I will have the great honor to host everyone to a small private dinner. But I would like to thank you again and just give the floor to you, if you don't mind, to perhaps share what you understand has been the impetus for this wonderful means of diplomacy, which has really, I think, brought our two countries closer together through the way of sister city partnerships. And we'd like to hear about all the great work that we know that you are doing there on the ground at the US Embassy in Nuku'alofa. So over to you, Jesse, and welcome again.
Certainly, I'm always more than happy to talk about the work that we're doing and our great relationship. So, I think first of all, it's very important to say that, I mean, I might be thousands of miles away from you right now, Sela, but it feels like we're so close with the just with the warmth and the connectivity between the bilateral relationship. So, I mean, in Tonga, you've got maybe about 100,000 people. In America, you've got 70,000 Tongan Americans that would claim Tongan heritage. In East Palo Alto alone, there's about 5,000 Tongans. So that's a very substantial portion of East Palo Alto. And then looking more broadly, I mean, it really just underscores the depth of the ties between our two countries. We talk about sister city relationships, but I mean, I think first of all, we got to say it's about family. I mean, sisters, brothers. Everybody I meet over here says, "Oh, I got a brother here. I got a brother there." You know, large family, and it's these family connectivities that really builds the ties. So I think that by formalizing these relationships into a sister city partnership, we're going to be able to foster cultural and educational exchanges, preserve heritage, and encourage both sides to preserve best practices in arts and language. We'll have a lot of youth programs that can build pride, resilience, and cross-cultural understanding across both communities. But I think it's very important to say that this is a historic milestone in U.S. Tonga relationships. It's the first ever sister city relationship between Kalofa'o and East Palo Alto. And it really embodies the spirit of people to people diplomacy. This all started with people to people diplomacy. Somebody knew somebody, they connected, they discussed, and then all of a sudden, they're formalizing this to link our cultures, link our communities, share resilience, increase education, and nurture opportunity. So I think that this type of initiative is going to make both the Tongan people more prosperous and the American people more prosperous in their connectivity. So I'm just delighted to see the level of interest that we're getting from both sides in this initiative.
Thank you so much, Jesse. And I sense the same excitement that you have over there back at home, and what we are feeling here right now. I believe, there's a lot of curiosity, certainly for the Tongan people. We are in the process of building appreciation about what sister city partnerships are all about. And in fact, what comes to my mind right now, it's very interesting in the Tongan culture. I've heard the elderly say in their speeches oftentimes, that when we say in English, cousins, which is the next step over from siblings, it's very interesting. In the Tongan language, we do not have a word that translates for cousins. So in fact, we call direct first cousins and second cousins and the like, we call them all brothers and sisters. And I think in that spirit, there's a great sense of excitement in the air. And I like to think, I believe in kudos and so forth, that the stars are really, and the moon is really aligned. And so things have, of course, not everything is always smooth sailing, but there have been bumps. We've gone from left to right, but definitely there's a definitive will to make this work and make this happen. And I sincerely reiterate what you've just shared with me. It only takes one person who might benefit from a work exchange or a youth visit, so to speak, or takes one person just to understand a little bit better someone's culture, the Tongan culture, say, and for that person to share on the excellent work skills and work ethic that you have here in the United States, the driving edge of technology, which is encapsulated in great workplaces that are included in this program, and that Her Royal Highness the Crown Princess and her delegation are very privileged to be visiting next week. So we are super excited. It only takes one person to learn a little something, take back to Tonga, or say, for example, some U.S. citizen in the town of East Palo Alto to understand a little bit more about why Tongans are how they are, and we're big on the extended family, why we go to church every Sunday and so forth, and for them to share on that love. Share on the love about culture, as you mentioned, youth, education, work experience. And that's what we want to cultivate, as a better working village that we are all in. And so, up until now, there have been many hands, many shoulders that have toiled to make this work. And we are super, super grateful for the U.S. government, from the hierarchy right up to from the top all the way down to others here in city of East Palo Alto, the former mayor and the current mayor and all their work staff, and of course all these wonderful organizations. And there's lots of heads, I can't mention names, I don't want to forget anybody, who've really all come together to try and make this happen. So we are super excited and just very keen to make this happen, and as smoothly as possible. But so far so good, I'm happy to report. And so these are the things that we are looking at going ahead from yesterday and the good arrival. But tell me, Jessie, if you can share perhaps a little bit more about what the embassy is doing there on the ground in Nuku'alofa, as you mentioned, to further deepen the bilateral relations between our countries.
Oh, of course. So I would say that first of all, I want to mention that you did talk a little bit about our shared values, our shared religion. I think these are really key strengths of the relationship. I've never arrived somewhere as a diplomat where it's just been so easy to integrate into a culture, and I think that really is a true strength of the relationship. But here on the ground at the U.S. Embassy here in Nuku'alofa, we've launched a number of initiatives, both to develop more advanced technology here in Tonga, energy security. Just this week, we have a team of about 20 people in Tonga from the Millennium Challenge Corporation, and they're looking to what they would call a threshold compact program. So it all gets quite complicated and technical, so I won't go into that. But the quick answer is they'll be spending tens of millions of dollars here in Tonga to invest in Tonga and in Tonga's future, probably with a particular focus on technology and on energy. But that's just one of our initiatives. We've also got the U.S. Trade Development Agency looking at new initiatives to enhance Tonga's energy security, particular access to fuel as things in the region become a bit challenging in a way. So I think it's safe to say that whatever the challenge is, I mean, we from the U.S. Embassy, the U.S. government, we're eager to support, and we're eager to explore different types of opportunities to do so. Just looking to another example, fishing is a very important part of Tongan heritage and culture. We found out just the other day that a lot of the fishermen that go out to sea on the small boats, they might not have maritime safety equipment to tell the safety crews where they are if their vessel has any issues. So we're looking to actually provide the Tongan government with that maritime safety equipment so that the artisanal fishermen can go out and fish in safety. These are just a few examples, but Stella, I want to go back to one thing that you'd mentioned about just the level of interest from East Palo Alto. The embassy is just one building. A city is an entire city full of people. Take Kalofa'o, take East Palo Alto. I think a lot of the initiatives that people are working on both sides really align with the initiatives that we're working on from the embassy perspective. Looking at technology, for example, we're lining up to invest tens of millions of dollars in technology here in Tonga, connecting the island to subsea cables and getting proper data centers and all of that. But at the same time, the Crown Princess and her delegation, she's going to meet with a lot of companies that are actually based out of East Palo Alto. So I think that's a fascinating opportunity to link what's happening at the municipal level with all of the other levels of government. And it really brings more people together working towards the same common end result. So it's a wonderful reason to be pursuing these types of relationships.
Thank you so much. And I do recall when we started having this conversation about, I would like to say 2 and a bit years ago, some of the ideas that came forward from those who were a little bit more knowledgeable about such sister city partnerships was to, first of all, for example, ensure that there's a level of parity between the two cities. It was already evident at the time that East Palo Alto was very much enthused and ready to lock into a sister city partnership with a city in Tonga. And so, in fact, this is their first sister city partnership. So we are just so excited about that and thrilled. But the other issue that I was mindful of, it seemed to ring in the back of my mind, is sustainability. And so, there's always this idea that there really is no point in establishing a sister city partnership if you can't foresee that it's going to continue to perpetuity, because we don't just do these things for the nice formality of signing and then we just leave it there, right? But like I said, I really think that the stars are aligned. And it's exciting that we've managed to converge for mutual areas of interest, which you've just kindly identified. And so we are really, I've seen the program, and these organizations that they're going to be visiting next week are very much tailored to the areas of mutual interest to the people of Tonga and America. So, I mean, I don't know how long you've been serving there in Nuku'alofa, but we certainly hope that you will be there for longer so that we can see this pan out, this new initiative. And, I know that the excitement is definitely in the air. So I think for the part, a lot of people may be listening to our program today because of that curiosity. But I was wondering if there was anything else that you wanted to mention, because growing up in Tonga, that's what I wanted to say. We were very much aware that we've always had friendly relations with the United States, and even dating back to my grandfather, who is now passed on. But in the time of World War II, when that's one of the means of our very close cooperation is the defense cooperation, which has just gone on for years' time, and always the connotation of the U.S. military having joint defense exercises in Tonga or abroad it has always been very much a key part of the friendly relations between our countries. And we are very grateful for that. Things like helping rebuild government primary schools, halls, city halls, towns halls, after especially the devastating effects of natural disasters. These are things that are synonymous with Tongan people growing up. And in addition to that, of course, is the very well established Peace Corps volunteer program. And we've always known U.S. Peace Corps, out and about in the villages, helping, either teaching the language or whichever areas they've been providing support. I mean, I'm more than half a century old, and I can remember since I was very young, as I'm sure Emily does, who's hosting us on this radio program. Peace Corps has always been around. And I think another form that just comes to mind is more visual ways in which people are very relatable to the definitive assistance that's provided by the US government and other avenues is, for example, through the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints. It's very visible to the eye of the missionaries who come in and do their great work and out and about spreading the good word. But, these are just some of the things that kind of ring to my mind. I'm thinking that I think people out and about at the grassroots level are very aware of it. But of course, as you've mentioned, there's a great work at the bilateral level and certainly at the regional level, where the US government injects an incredible amount of money into regional organizations that support areas of mutual interest. For example, the maritime safety and also fishing. And of course, the environment is very much at the forefront of the concerns for small island states like Tonga. But certainly technological innovations and of course AI here, as you know, in the United States is huge. So we're exciting about your reminder about technology, and that was one of the reasons why East Palo Alto was just a given. Really, it is the door to Silicon Valley, and so I don't know what your thoughts about that are.
So I want to react a little bit first about the this notion of longevity of sister city relationships. I think that based on the demographics of East Palo Alto and Kalofa'o, it's really baked into the arrangement. I think that if you mentioning the shared values, the shared religion, the Tongan Americans that call East Palo Alto home now, but all have family back in Tonga, there are real sisters in Tonga and in East Palo Alto. This is, for me, I mean, like you mentioned, a grassroots relationship that is really going to build up and continue to develop over time. It's not just we're announcing a sister city relationship just to have a delegation visit somewhere and announce it. It's a true friendship, and I think it's really a formalization that's something that's been happening for quite a long time. And you also mentioned our strong military cooperation. I think that it is a very, very strong military cooperation. And from time to time, we have our American vessels coming through the region. They'll make a stop in Tonga. They'll do a bit of training. Maybe they'll help enforce some maritime safety laws. And we actually have a vessel coming up next week. So it is a very strong relationship in the defense space. And I think that that also speaks to the bilateral relationship, the strength of the bilateral relationship. If we're brothers and sisters or brothers at arms in war, something like that, I mean, as you mentioned, it all goes back, I mean, decades, maybe even a century, the close relationship there. And Peace Corps, I think that we from the American Embassy, we have a lot of catching up to do with Peace Corps. Every time I'm walking around, oh, are you with Peace Corps? No, I'm with the embassy. But trust me, I will one day earn the great reputation that Peace Corps has here in Tonga, working out in the villages, teaching at schools. And I think that a lot of our relationships, they can expand in ways that you don't really think. When I first arrived here, we actually had a group of Seabees from the American military's engineering corps, and they were here over a 6-month period. They were renovating a schoolroom at Atele. So people would normally think, oh, the military, they're going to go build a wharf and fuel reserves. Maybe we'll do that too. But yeah, schoolroom at Atele, out there working hand in hand with the students and then making sure that everybody has tools to work in that space as well. So I think it's just a really, really strong relationship, really great relationship.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm also just remembering because Tonga did support the United States. I won't say the year because I'm not quite sure about that, but we did support America with the Coalition for the Willing in Afghanistan. And that, I believe, was the impetus for, first of all, getting the pilot project for allowing consular visits from the U.S. Embassy in Fiji to Tonga every quarter. And I think that kind of opened the door and laid the foundation. Fast forward to where we are now having the U.S. Embassy present in Nuku'alofa. And that's just really a dream come true. And at the same time, it shows that there are progressive, positive steps going forward since, I would like to say the past 20 years in particular, to really solidify and try and intensify the good work between our countries. And, I think sometimes, it might seem irrelevant as such to try and compare like what can Tonga offer to the United States of America, which is, a big country, an economic might, and, with so many more people and things. But I do believe that the intentionality to share cultural heritage and have a better understanding. And I think oftentimes we have to remind ourselves, for example, when we are at in the international level, and for example at the United Nations, and like we all at the end of the day have one vote. So I'm just really very grateful to you for making the time to join me today, and to have this discussion. And I know it will probably be remiss of me, but I just have to. I'll touch very briefly on it because in recent times, and quite rightly so, the U.S. government, and I believe I've heard our Lord Prime Minister even mention that there have been, of course, new, I would like to say, immigration tweaks from the United States, whereby Tonga has to fine-tune certain things going forward from here, which I believe we are working very vigorously behind the scenes. the related ministries, which includes, of course, His Majesty's Diplomatic Services, which hosts the Immigration Division. Certain things that we need to upgrade to international standards in terms of our travel documents and certain other things that we need to work on. But I think where there is a will, there is a way, and certainly the door, it hasn't been closed outright, but we are working on that. And so that on that note, I know that the delegation was extremely grateful that it was possible for the State Department to make a unique consideration to allow the delegates to get special visas in order to facilitate their visit here. But they are all really super excited. We have, of course, representation from the town, Folau town councils, and I think this is a really great way to build up local government. And there will be exchanges with the city of East Palo Alto. And I think sharing of work experiences will be very helpful in order to establish Folau, and certainly it should pan out to other local governments in Tonga of a whole. But perhaps I'll give the floor back to you if you'd like to make any comments on that.
No, certainly. And I want to talk a little bit about the military cooperation first with Afghanistan. So I was just at a Memorial Day service the other day, and I was asking a Tongan soldier what his medals meant. He said, this meant I served in Afghanistan. I said, Afghanistan? This is basically like I'm talking to an American soldier here. So it really does show the very close relationship. And I think that having the embassy here is one good step. In terms of the kind of the immigration tweaks that you'd mentioned, there's a few things that I want to say there. The first message is I think there's something that everybody can do here. It most importantly, do not overstay visas. So some of these tweaks were driven statistically by looking at people from different countries, and if they were granted permission to stay in America for 3 months and they stayed in 4. That's going to change the different deviation there and lead to some of these tweaks. But we're working really hard to get that back to where it used to be, so that it was so that travel can be more easily facilitated. But on that, I'll just say, if you have any questions there, please consult travel.state.gov, and you can also reach out to Tonga NIV. That's non-immigrant visa, Tonga NIV. At state.gov with any specific questions. But I think it is very important that if you wish to travel as a student, you should apply for a student visa. If you wish to be working in the United States, you need to apply for a work visa. And it's very, very important to take into consideration the amount of time that the officer at the border says you can stay in the United States and leave before that time period. If you want to come back because you have a sister or brother or parents or something there, we also have immigrant visas that you can apply for from Tonga, and that would set somebody up for a legal long-term residence in the United States.
Thank you so much, Jesse. I really appreciate your allowing us at least to touch on that and to clarify. And I think please let Devon know when he returns that we are super grateful for the initiative to have bi-weekly meetings about this issue and other issues, which really keep us all in the know and in the loop. And I think this opening of doors to do that has been very helpful. As we've mentioned, it's been important for us also to play our part via the media to get that news out. And we were very fortunate that we had one of the ministers from Cabinet who was visiting recently on her way back from the United Nations, the Minister of Internal Affairs, and it was great. We did a couple of radio program series on this very radio station in which we shared the same information. We had very supportive here from the consulate here in the Bay Area to ensure that we help the Tongan diaspora here with their travel documents or any advice. on this matter. So please know that we are also trying to play our part on that. So I'm really grateful again that you touched on that area. But maybe we'll allow our gracious host, Emily, if you don't mind, just in case she had any questions there or anything to share back, after hearing what we've just been talking about. Emily, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sela. Thank you, Mr. Chese from the U.S. Embassy, for all those very informative information that you just inform us. I would just like to highlight on the importance of empowering and enriching the local government in Tonga. As everybody knows, local government in Tonga is the foundation of the government. And when they are having this partnership with the local government here in East Paloato, it's mainly empower them more. So when, like for example, this event, when they come and see what's going on and how the local East Paloato Council is working and how these do this, that will help them go back to Tonga and, and that's empower them. So that's program itself is not only helping the community, but the system of how they do works in their own little council, town council. So I believe, Mr. Chese, that this program will definitely empower the community, the system, how they do things back home. I was just wondering if this is an open door for other communities to do a sister city, not only here in California, but any other states in America in the future. Thank you.
I was just waiting for you to ask that question. I might only have one sister, but the more people I meet here, I found it's pretty uncommon to have just one sister in Tonga. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to establish similar relationships with cities throughout America, in cities in Tonga. But there's always one thing that's going to that I have to say here. East Palo Alto is always going to be the first one. So does that make it the father's oldest sister? And does that have any importance in a sister city relationship? I don't know.
And I think that really, I think coincides very nicely with, as you've been there, you live there in Nuku'alofa right now, because family is really important in the Tongan culture. And so I think when we say sister city, it really warms the heart, certainly of the Tongans and certainly for others. It's about friendship. And, I often think, because people ask me here, non-Tongans, what is there in Tonga? What is the basis for the economy and so forth? And it's very hard sometimes, to place the island kingdom because, when you compare it to a big country like America, it's in terms of size, it's certainly different. But I always say to them in recent times, I say we do have sun, sand, and beach. Like many island countries. And, I think if you're looking for a certain type of tourism experience, you might go to certain other countries. But if you want to go to perhaps a more organic and grassroots level tourism experience, certainly Tonga might be for you. But I think it's true to say, Jessie, that I think I have realized that one of the assets of Tonga is her people. And I would like to say, sorry, without blowing our own horn, if I may say so, the Dutch navigator, Captain Cook, I don't think he was Dutch, I think he was British, when he did visit, and there's a funny story behind that, I'll share that with you some other time, but I think he wasn't remiss when he called Tonga the Friendly Islands. And so it's really our people. I think that is really what is key to being a kingdom, and if you really want to make us stand out, and I think hopefully you agree with me. And so when we when we disperse globally, I find it's very nice. Nowadays, I've heard our leadership always coining when they come and speak to the people, the diaspora here in New Zealand, Australia, and America, and thanking them for all the help, as that they continue to send back to the motherland through remittances and sending crates full of good stuff, and they thank them and they say thank you for not forgetting Tonga, but that in fact these communities, these pockets of Tongans who live abroad are really, we say in Tongan, they are the whakalahi. It is an extension of Tonga. They become an extension of our island kingdom. And so that's a really mighty force because, as you know, in terms of the economy, remittances really play a big part from so I think thank you so much, Emily, for that very good question. So it's obviously going to strengthen local governance to another level, which will hopefully be able to support the Lord Prime Minister and his government and the Prime Minister's office. Right, Emily?
Right. Yeah. It's very true, Stella. And we need that. Tonga need, yes, of course, the government we need to enrich them, and you guys talk about it, but sometimes we need to empower and enrich the local government too. Because the more powerful they are and the better system they will use, the better it is, because they are the one in the grassroots for the majority of the people. Yeah, So I believe that this engagement that you're doing with East Palo Alto, I hope that those town council will capture the way East Palo Alto do things in the city council. So when they go back home, then they will empower using those experience that they had. And we wish for more engagement with the local government. Because the stronger the local government, the better it is they engage with the government, and the better it is the system as a whole. That's just my thinking process right now. But I will definitely with our Radio Tonga will follow up and ask the local government and also the Golofo Town Council to share their experience. Because the more they share their experience, the better it is for other town council to see the best they get out of this. If they won't share their experience, they will stay within their own community. But we want to spread it out for the Tongans. You never know, maybe Hunga community would like to sister city with New York. So, but this is an open door, and it's so exciting. Thank you so much, Mr. Chesson and Stella.
Thank you so much, Emily. And I think maybe for the benefit certainly of Emily here at the radio station, and for the role of the media is so key in our work these days, Jesse. I think more than ever before. And I was wondering, maybe I'll invite both of you, perhaps Jesse first and then Emily, if I might, just to say a few words to that, how the media and the use of different technologies, you're utilizing that in order to reach out to communities and targeted audiences.
Yes, so certainly. First of all, I want to mention something that you mentioned a little bit earlier. I'm actually really, really happy to be here in Tonga, and I've extended my tour due to specifically the warmth of the Tongan people. I'm here with my young family, and back to the shared values. I mean, there are shared values here that many, many Americans would appreciate. So could be serving anywhere in the world, but I've chose Tonga, and I want to stay here for a long time. So off the bat there, speaking a bit about media and the importance of engagement, people do consume media in different ways. I mean, some people listen to the radio, some people read. Social media is becoming ever more important. But I do think it is important to get messaging out. People need to be able to hear authentic voices. They need to be able to hear what is happening. And it's so important these days because you want to make sure that it's not just the loudest voice in a town hall that's getting heard, but a variety of different voices, and that everybody's able to have free speech and getting messages out there. So with that, I'd like to thank the media, thank Emily and her team for really helping get messages out there, talk to people, communicating with people, bringing in different people to share their messages as well. Because at the end of the day, democracies are founded on the voices of the people, and you need to be able to get messaging out there so that people can talk and take everything into consideration.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and I know you have your website, which is very useful, and of course we're using this medium to do our radio program. But Emily, maybe you would like to speak to that. This is your line of work.
Thank you, Sela and Jesse. Well, we started radio back in 2010, and we I can say here in the United States, we are the only radio station. And when I say radio, it goes through phone application. You know, nowadays there's a radio, the phone application. We don't transmit on FM and AM. So we just use phone application, website, and stream on social media and YouTube at the same time. But that's very true. We can see that people are hungry for information wherever it is, especially our Tongan community, not only here in America, but in Australia and other places. They're hungry for information, like information that you just share with us, information from the government, information from the local government, information from church. You know, they're hungry for that. And that's why we're still here. We're trying to do as much as we can do. And we're so thankful also, during the COVID-19, we started a good relationship with the counties in some of the states here in America. They use us as the channel to our Tongan community in the U.S. to channel down information about COVID-19 and all those kind of things, you know. But we hope, we just hope in the future that it's going to be more for our Tongan community, so they can be fed with all the information that they have the right to have, you know, and it does enrich them as well. Yeah, but Sela, maybe that's all I can say now. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Emily. And I think
sorry, Sela. I think Sione want to say something.
Yes. Sorry to get in, but I'm so interested when the emphasis from Tonga said it is important for real people to talk about real issues. And I think that's important instead of just shooting out banners or pictures or ideas or whatnot. But I think when we sit down and have a real conversation, I think that make a big difference for each and every Tongan across the world, whether they're here in the United States, but also for those in those other countries. And I realize how the dynamic of travel had been changed dramatically, whether it's political or whatever it is, but we all know where it comes from. But it really changed a lot of things. How bad it is? Basically, the answer for what I know, that it is really bad, because a lot of people cannot really travel because of all the restriction. And I'm trying to figure out if there any way that you guys can help easy it out for everybody, because of all the game plan, even conferences, even a lot of important meetings have changed because of that. But I'm just kind of add on to see if you can say a light on that. I'm sorry to get in, Sela, but I'm just trying to add on to this conversation. I think it's important.
Thank you, Sione. So Sione is CEO of the radio program, Jesse, and I think, I know you've kindly reiterated or iterated what needs to be done and what people need to be more mindful of, and I think it's the same for all countries in terms of their immigration policies. They are to be adhered to, and I think for certain part, certainly I sense that we need to change our line of thinking in terms of, I think sometimes, coming to the United States, it's like coming to the promised land. There's an irony in saying that. And you know what I mean? And in fact, I was speaking with the ambassador from recently, and, it's economic. Looking for the opportunities. But at the same time, you kind of reminded us, there are certain visa categories for the purposes to travel to the United States. Visiting, students, and religious, even for, the pastors and so forth. So we just need to adhere and to be more mindful that there are certain conditions to these opportunities to travel to the United States for Tongan citizens. But I don't know if you want to. I think Sione, in a sense, was just thinking, was just thinking out aloud, but I don't know if you had anything to add to what you already shared with us, which was quite clear.
No, so I just want to say, I know that there's a hunger for information, and our goal at the embassy is to be the Oteika of information here and really getting the message out as best we can. But I think looking past this, in looking towards kind of a system that would make it easier to facilitate travel, it's really important, I think, to really just channel that do not overstay message at the moment. And Stella mentioned the working group that we have between both governments. I mean, it's really from the top down at both governments that we are working together to get Tonga statistically in a category that would allow, I think, things to function a bit more as they had in the past. But it's really a matter of everyone doing their part. So if you want to go visit a cousin or a sister, it's important that you only stay for that amount of time and then return. I know that talking about that now, when it is more difficult to get a visa in some cases, seems a bit off, but it is still important to do in resolve. And I think the different visa categories, they can be confusing. I mean, I've had family go through applying to one category or another, but I really would encourage people that when they're looking to travel to America, to look at travel.state.gov. And as Stella was mentioning, we have so many different visa categories. I think there's maybe 50 of them. And determining what category you wish to travel on, and then traveling on that visa that matches with what you intend to do there. And as people align towards doing that, staying within that amount of time that they're permitted, that's going to really open it up again to make it easier, I think, for everybody. And this is something that we're looking at globally right now. It's not just Tonga. It's globally, it's statistically driven. And we do still share the strongest bilateral relationship, as evidenced by this and many other things that we're doing right now.
I agree. Sione, I hope that has answered your question of sorts. And I think by Jesse joining us today, he's opened the door for us to have sister discussions further, whether it's by radio program again or otherwise in the future. But I think we'll begin to wrap up because I'm mindful of Jesse's time and also the radio time. But we are very grateful for the blessing that Crown Princess is the patron of this new Sister City initiative from the Tongan side. And I hope that this indicates to the US government just how serious we are taking this wonderful opportunity. And, I was just recalling also, Jesse, that I'm very excited that Lavinia from the embassy there in Tonga, who is with us, and we're very grateful to you and Devon for allowing her to join as part of the delegation and report back and just be a liaison, that there is another Fulbright scholar in the pipeline. And so I'm really, really happy that this initiative or this track, good for Sione and Emily to know, I mean, Fulbright scholarships, a very high level educational avenue, and for Tonga to be accessing this in particular. In recent years, I've had the great privilege to meet one or two of the recent Fulbright scholars, and like I said, there's one in the pipeline. So this is just further testament to the close relations that we're really trying to nurture. But again, as we close off and I summarize, we really thank you, Jesse, for your time. We are grateful to the U.S. government, for the hierarchy, for really locking in and supporting us on this. And to the city of East Palo Alto and the mayor, their intentionality is very clear. They've actually positioned a global outreach officer, I believe that's the name of her position, via Tonga Victoria of Hamango, who's actually a first-generation Tongan, and she's been very key on the ground and working very closely with Lavinia at the embassy and myself. So this is really exciting. The people that are representing from the Kolofo'o, the Crown Princesses, Kolofo'o City Council, are also very intentional. And so we pray for the wind and the alliances to be with us for the remainder of the week. But we thank you also to the Radio Vake Tali Folau. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And it's good that Jesse has met you. So in future, if ever you need to do any further media outreach here in America, this is the medium to go by. And so on that very high note, Malo Alpito to everybody, and watch this space, Jesse. There's lots of exciting things we hope to report, and thank you once again.
Thank you, Sela, and thank you, Mr. Border. Appreciate the opportunity to part of these short programs so we can share something that interests our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ofatu.
Ofatu, and don't eat too much lucipi, okay? He's laughing. I know that's your favorite, but I'm just saying, just eat a little bit. Ofatu.
Thank you. Bye.